The seasons have a really important role in determining the quality and production of traditional cheeses. And in France, some of the most interesting examples come from the mountains of the Franche-Comte and here in Savoie, where the cows get to graze on high mountain pastures for 3 months of the year. I've come to look at 4 benchmarks: Mont D'Or, which comes from Franche-Comte, Reblochon, Abondance, and the Prince of Gruyere, Beaufort.
For centuries, the extreme climate and difficult terrain of the European Alps has played a significant role in how and when traditional cheeses are made. For just a few months each year, the rich green alpine slopes become accessible for grazing cows. All the traditional cheeses of this region were born out of a need to preserve a seasonal flush of rich milk. One of the oldest of all is called Beaufort. This star of the Alps is made in large, flat, crusty wheels with distinctive concave sides. The size of this cheese meant it would mature and keep through till winter, whilst the unusual curved sides were designed to make it easier to carry down the mountains tied to a donkey.
The finest Beaufort comes from here in the alpage, where Abondance and Terrine cows produce a rich milk from grazing a diverse range of pastures. It's their milk, plus the ancient skills of the cheesemaker and the affineur, that produce one of the world's greatest mountain cheeses.
The finest Beaufort is still produced high in the mountains from mid-June to early October by small teams working 24/7. And cheesemaking here begins at 3 a.m. It takes about 500 litres of milk to create a wheel of Beaufort, which can weigh anything up to 50 kilos. After starters and rennet are added, the curd is heated and allowed to coagulate. It is cut into small grain-sized pieces and heated further to expel any excess whey.
These curds have been cooking here for the past hour, and the next step's going to be really interesting. The machine's going to be turned off, and Julian is going to have to get the curds out and put them into hoops. And the way he does it is very traditional.
The cheesemaker performs some interesting acrobatics whilst he gathers the curds into the cloth. They are then placed into traditional wooden hoops to drain before being pressed. Beaufort is made throughout the year in the valleys of the region, but the best examples are produced above 1,500 metres in summer and are known as Beaufort d'Alpage. Under the French appellation system, each wheel must be matured for a minimum of 4 months. But the finest examples are ripened for at least a year or longer. After production has finished for the morning, I was invited to share lunch and a tasting with the cheesemakers.
And he's more down.
Smells beautiful. Flowers. That's good.
My guide to seasonal mountain cheeses is Antoine Marsot and his son Etienne, a member of the prestigious Guilde de Fromagère and an authority on traditional French cheese.
So the boys spend 3 months up here. 3 months up here?
No, they will start mid-June, early June, mid-June, until end of September, early October, depending on the weather forecast.
And they work 16, 18 hours a day?
Minimum.
Hard work.
2 milking, 2 production per day. It's hard job, and 7 days a week, of course.
Yeah.
They never stop because you cannot help the cows from being milk every day.
You can stop the cow.
And always wine at 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, of course, that's the tradition. So,
The flavour of Beaufort alpage is rich and floral, a wonderful reminder of summer alpine pastures. Beaufort also boasts a younger brother that dates back to the 12th century and shares its name with a village and a breed of cow.
On a day like today, it's easy to understand why these mountain pastures are so green. This race of cows is the star of the Savoie. Their milk is used to make all the benchmarks, and they also have a cheese named after them. It's called Abondance.
The Abondance cows are quite unusual, with chestnut-coloured coats, white heads and patchwork eyes. Like its giant cousin Beaufort, the best Abondance cheese is still made high in the mountains during the summer. Farmers once drove their herds up and down the slopes as the season changed, carrying their belongings between a series of small dairies. I wanted to visit one of the few remaining dairies, but I soon found myself travelling along a very precarious four-wheel drive track. On this hair-raising journey, the farmer explained to me that none of his children would follow in the cheese-making business due to the relentless hard work and difficult conditions. Unless things change soon, this may be the last generation to make cheese this way. On this farm, Philippe looks after the cows, whilst his wife Annick makes all the cheese. Under French Appellation rules, Abondance must be cooked in a copper pot. Using the same traditional method as Beaufort, Annick takes the cloth and carefully lifts the curds into the wooden hoops. Once they've been pressed overnight, they're ready for maturation.
Hey, venez, regardez ma cave.
Down into the dungeons.
Voilà. Donc, ici...
Here it is. This is where we mature the cheeses for a minimum of 3 months.
La terre. Oui, alors la cave, elle est toute dans la terre.
Yes, this is dirt.
On est en
We use the basement because we need a certain temperature, ideally between 10 and 13 degrees Celsius.
entre 10
No more and no less.
13 degrés, pas plus. Et
We left the
puis,
floor bare to maintain a high moisture level, about 95%.
car de l'humidité, il en faut beaucoup, au moins 95%. Le fromage, aujourd'hui, on va...
Today we'll turn the cheeses so they don't stick to the
Ça
boards.
permet déjà de le décoller.
And once they're turned,
Sur la planche,
we sprinkle
et
them
une fois
with
qu'on a
coarse salt,
retourné,
which
on
we
va
try and spread
lui
evenly.
prendre du sel. C'est du sel blanc, du gros sel, qu'on essaie de bien répartir.
In the next 24 hours, the salt will melt and penetrate the
En
cheese.
24 heures, le sel il va fondre. En fondant, il va pénétrer.
And
ça va
tomorrow,
saler le
we'll
fromage.
repeat the
Et
process.
puis en même temps, demain, ce sel qui aura fondu, on va le répartir sur toute cette surface et au talon.
This couple have devoted their lives to producing cheese and invited me to sample their version of an Abondance fondue. This traditional mountain dish is simply made with a combination of garlic, onions, Abondance cheese, and a drop of local white wine.
Comte. À la fromagère.
The birthplace of this delicious cheese is a beautiful 12th century abbey located in the nearby village of Abondance. Decorated with elegant murals attributed to one of the official painters of the court of Savoie, these murals depict various scenes from the Bible, including what at first glance appears to be cheese. Which leads me to another seasonal benchmark created by the monks. The most popular cheese of the Savoie is called Reblochon, and it has a long and fascinating history that goes back to medieval times. It was once called the cheese of devotion because of its association with Carthusian monks who cleared the surrounding hills to graze their cows. The local farmers used to get the monks to bless their chalets and paid the monks with cheese. And slowly, over time, the cheese became a sort of tax. The land was also used by local farmers who paid a levy to the monks based on the value of the milk they produced. To avoid this tax, they cheated the inspectors by only half milking their cows, and then milked them a second time when no one was looking to make cheese.
Reblochon dates back from the Middle Ages, and in fact, Reblochon, blocher, is from the Middle Ages. It's Old French, meaning milking. So reblocher means milking a second time. They were tricky enough. And as the remaining quantity of milk from the second milking was small, they would do only small cheeses with it, like Reblochon.
Like other traditional cheeses in the region, fresh cow's milk is heated in large vats, and once the curds have knitted together, they're cut using a metal harp. The curds are then scooped into plastic hoops, and small weights put on the top to help them drain. Reblochon was once matured in mountain caves, and in winter, farmers even housed a sheep in a shallow sunken pit surrounded by the cheeses to help keep them warm. High in the Jura region near Thone, Reblochon is served the good old-fashioned way. After it's been sliced in half, it's placed in small pans under a charcoal grill to melt until it forms a delicious gooey sauce.
Look at that. Ooh. Oh, let's have a look at that.
So half of it will be okay for me.
Half.
Thank you so much.
Oh, look at that. Lovely.
So what do you call this, Antoine?
This is Reblochonade. It's made with a farmer's Reblochon, you know, this typical from Savoie and from this area in the valley of Thone. And we eat the hot Reblochon together with potatoes and, of course, a beautiful Savoie ham. Only products from the terroir. Cheers.
Cheers.
The majestic Jura Mountains run for more than 200 kilometres along the border between Switzerland and France. This region is home to one of Europe's most unusual and delicious seasonal cheeses, and both countries claim responsibility for creating it. It's called Mont D'Or in France and Vacherin or Vacherin Mont D'Or in Switzerland.
Well, Mont D'Or was created in order to use the remaining quantity of milk that was used for Comte, because you know to make a big wheel of Comte you need 500 liters of milk, but sometimes you add little more. So to adjust the production, they were using the remaining quantity of milk to make Mont D'Or. It's called the Mont D'Or mountain because ore is golden, and in the summertime it looks like a golden mountain.
For centuries, woodcutters have come to the pine forests that surround this golden mountain to collect the thin layer of bark that is used to wrap each cheese.
these trees are really important for your company, aren't they?
Yes, they are very important. You know, Fromagerie Arnaud has always been to have always produced Vacherin Mont d'Or the very traditional way. And we want our cheese to reflect the terroir. And so we need the trees from the terroir and from the forest here in order that our cheeses taste like the trees.
You're the only company now still using these trees?
We are the only companies that have 2 people only working the whole year long in order to work on the trees and get the skin off the trees and wrap the cheese with the skin.
The Fromagerie de Arnaud is the last dairy on the mountains still making Mont d'Or cheese.
So this is the last place making Mont d'Or.
On the colline of Mont d'Or, yeah, on the hill of the mountain of Mont d'Or.
That's amazing. Yeah.
20 local farmers supply the dairy, which creates almost 10% of the 3,000 tonnes made annually in France.
Gee, it's hot in here. So hot. Yeah.
I'm happy for you, you don't have any glasses.
It's also one of the few dairies that still uses traditional copper vats and gravity to fill the hoops rather than pumps. Natural bacteria in the raw milk help it coagulate, and the resulting curds are cut and heated in the copper vats.
It's the very traditional way. It has been like this for 500 years, and it's the only way to avoid a big difference in temperature that would damage the raw material, the milk from our Montbéliard cows.
The delicate curds are then poured into large trays containing the draining hoops. Then the cheese is lightly pressed to reduce the moisture content.
This is where the cheese first meets the bark. It's loosely wrapped around the outside and then pinned. And over the next 2 hours, we'll settle into it until it forms a perfect fit.
Equipped with their wooden girdles, the young Mont d'Or are submerged in a brine solution and later taken to a humidity and temperature-controlled maturation room.
One thing you could never capture on camera is the smell of cheese ripening. In this room, there's a wonderful smell of pine and honey. And these cheeses are going to spend the next 21 days here until they're taken away to be packed.
These young cheeses are regularly washed with brine, and over the next 21 days, the interior begins to slowly soften. The curious ripple on the surface of Mont d'Or is made when the young cheese is squeezed into its box, a process now carried out by machines. After the boxes have been wrapped, the cheese is ready for distribution to enthusiastic customers all around the world.
I think, you know, cheese is all about the resources of your terroir. I don't know any other cheese that has this strong link with its terroir, because to make this cheese, you wrap it with a ring of epicea tree, which is a pine tree type, typical from the Jura area. So the cheese has really a smell and taste of pine tree that's unique. And then it's very smooth and it smells cream because it's a cheese that is not matured for a long time, about 21 days. So very soft texture, like honey, little sugar smell and forest smell. People today are more conscious of what they are doing. They are more responsible. They are more and more concerned about the authenticity and keeping the tradition alive. People have had enough of quantity. Now they are looking for quality, and that's the trend for the future.
Whilst in London to visit my daughter Fleur, I dropped in to see my friend Patricia Mitchelson, a cheesemonger who owns a fantastic cheese shop called La Fromagerie. Customers can select from a wide range of carefully ripened cheeses from all over the world. But despite being spoiled for choice, Patricia always looks forward to the arrival of Mont D'Or every autumn. She has a special way of ripening Mont D'Or, hand-washing each cheese with Arbois wine and brine for several weeks before it's sold.
Now, this is the first of the new season, Mont D'Or.
Yes, you're the first one to try it.
Lovely.
This year.
And how did you cook this?
Massage the top of the rind with a little wine, white wine. Put the lid back on, cover the box with foil, and then pop it in
the oven,
in the oven for about at a high temperature, about 200 degrees, for about 25-30 minutes. And just towards the end of the cooking, the last 5-10 minutes, you take off the lid and take off the foil as well, and just let it really cook and bubble up. And then you take it out, and then just lift off the rind, and voila, there's your meal.
Look at that.
And
That's just like...
Isn't that wonderful? And you can have some charcuterie on the side if you wish, with a little bit of salad and maybe some bread if you wanted.
Okay.
But it is very substantial. It's a substantial
Great
meal.
party trick. It's so easy to do.
It's so easy.
The influence of the seasons is one of the many things that makes traditional handmade cheese so interesting to work with. Whilst it's not an exact science, these seasonal tendencies are hard to ignore, and those in the know wait expectantly for each year's marvellous delights. And there's nothing quite like tasting a perfectly ripened seasonal mountain cheese.